What's up, my know-it-alls? Well, that's right, it is that time again. That means it's Wednesday morning, and you're gonna watch Andor. So here we go. Andor, Season 1, Episode 11, The Daughters of Ferix. So the episode starts with Cassian and his buddy from prison, hanging on a cliff face. So literally, we have opened on the cliffhanger. No, I'm kidding. I mean, it's funny. So, but then, and they're essentially hiding from various, they're trying to hide from a patrol that's flying around, obviously looking for them. And you find out later that there's literally a bounty of 1,000 credits per head for anybody who turns them in. So we then cut back to Ferix, and you find out that Cassian's mom has died. Marva has passed away. And it's a very sad scene. Everybody's kind of collecting and gathering up some things and whatnot. And at the end of the day, it doesn't take a genius to know that the Empire is going to ultimately try to use this to their advantage somehow. So what happens is that the Daughters of Ferix carry her out. I don't know if that's the official name or title for women from Ferix or what the deal is, but at the end of the day, it's a sad moment. And you understand, because I feel like Marva's a character that we didn't really get to see a lot of or enough of or understand her true motivations. We saw, obviously, she wanted to be part of the rebellion. She wanted to help protect Ferix. But at the end of the day, I feel like she should have been, I don't know, I wanted more out of her, especially that actress. She said she's a very talented person. Yeah, Fiona Shaw. I like Fiona Shaw. I thought she was really good. I think she's a very talented actress. I think she's got a lot of... she could have given a lot more to that role, I believe. Anyway, so then we come back to Monarchina 5, and there, yeah, Cassian and his dude see a quad jumper. Now, we're all familiar with quad jumpers from various Star Wars projects in the past. And there's these locals, Narkinans, who are, I guess, fishermen of some sort. Anyway, so they make a bolt for the quad jumper, and that's when these guys push a button that actively shoots a very convenient kind of netting made out of like big, thick, sticky, wet material. And they're being dragged toward the thing, and the aliens are talking amongst themselves, and they're like, oh, yeah, blah, blah, these people, they come from the prison. That's where we find out that it's 1,000 credits per head. And they're super complaining about the fact that, the Empire showed up, and they caused trouble, and they've ruined the waters, and now they're ruining the land with these people, and they're really complaining. And Cassian manages to catch that they're complaining, and he's like, no, we're not with the Empire. We're against them. We're just like you. We don't want to. And the guy's like, oh yeah? And so he releases them and then proceeds to be like, well, where are you going? And so he's like, I got to get back to the place where I was at. He has to get back to that place. We find out why in just a few minutes. So then finally the quad jumper powers up, and clearly they're being taken somewhere. They're going to be dropped off. So these locals who are tired of the Empire ruining their planet are willing to help them. This begins a trend in Star Wars. I say begins. Obviously, the trend's probably been going on. However, this is the first time we really understand what's happening. The more the Empire pushes, it's literally what Leia said.
The more you tighten your grip, Tarkin, the more star systems will slip through your fingers.
Right? So, Leia knew what she was talking about. So then the report goes to back up to everybody's finding out that Marfa's dead. Everybody who's watching. So literally, it's everyone from Dedra Mira and the ISB who are like, she's like, you better watch this thing. I want to watch it closely, this and that. The locals are like, we're not gonna, they keep asking for a permit to have their funeral. We're not gonna do that. And she's like, oh no, you're gonna give them I want a funeral. We want a funeral. We want to box them in. She has a whole plan. Dedra Mira. I love to hate her because she's brilliant, and I love seeing that. You're simply the best. Better than all the rest. So, but she's still a very dangerous woman. And then you have the Luthen's assistant finds out because Vel comes and tells her. And so, and Luthen's assistant's, that poor girl's holding it together. Gosh, she's holding it together so well. She's trying so hard to just keep everything together, and like down to the whole espionage thing. She's like, "We have rules for a reason, and what are you doing?" And trying to play it off like, "Oh yeah, let me show you some things." And Vel's like, "Are you crazy?" And she's like, "Are you?" it's a fun, it's a fun interaction. Bix is hauled out, and she is shown a hologram of Andor Krieger. And Krieger she asks, "Is this the person that you saw? Is this the person?" And she can't answer. She's so disturbed by everything that's happened in terms of this whole thing with her, how her questioning happened. Because remember, they tortured her. Specifically, the way they tortured her was they used the sounds of an alien species who, when they're killed, they make this wailing sound that is when those people are injured, they make this wailing sound that's very disturbing, and it messes with the human psyche. It messes with humanoid psyche, whatever. Anyways, very interesting. We then cut to Mon Mothma, and in Mon Mothma's place, Vel's coming to visit, and you see Mon's daughter in a table in like almost a sorority setting, meaning there are other girls who are dressed similarly, and they're doing a chant about the old ways. And you find out that this is an old school chant, and the way Vel and Mon react to this is that apparently this is like a really old thing that was done in their culture, and it had fallen out of fashion on Chandrillan, but now here at the capital in Coruscant, it's coming back and like stronger than ever. And so Vel makes the question, "Are you taking proposals?" So clearly this is some sort of coming of age ceremony, some sort of personal expansion of sort of the women characters and how they, and especially Chandrillan's. So, and the whole time she's just thinking about dude's offer. Oh yeah. She's thinking about it. Little Miss, "I'm not." And he's all like, "That's the first thing you said that's a lie." You know, it's like, yeah. Oh, yeah. She's totally thinking about it because she's desperate. And she explains the financial situation to Vel. It's bad. It's literally, it's mob-style stuff. So I guess like the whole first year of the rebellion or the beginning of the uprising of it, she was just cranking out money from her family's fortune, like tons of it. And she had set up herself, she explains, this whole network of like subsidies and bank accounts and the whole bit, and it would just trickle down, and at the very end she would collect the money out and she would give it out to whoever needed it. Then all of a sudden Aldhani happens and everything gets locked down, and she proceeds to explain now there's one ledger that has a hardcore discrepancy and she has no means of fixing it, hence why she's ultimately considering this thug's offer. So yeah, and Vel's like, "Oh man, you're screwed." So then, the Cyril, we cut to Cyril, a character we haven't seen in a minute. Cyril gets woken up in the middle of the night by his mom. Apparently, he's got a phone call. It's his old sergeant, the guy who helped him way back in the first couple episodes when they were going to take on Cassian and whatnot and chase him down. He's the guy, and so he is like he's trying to tell Cyril, "Hey, listen, you asked me for any information about Andor, and his mom has passed away." So Cyril knows for a fact if he's going to make a move, it's got to happen as soon as possible. So again, everything's converging. Unlike before, where I used to believe we were in 3-episode arcs, I actually now believe that we're less in 3-episode arcs and we're more in it's just good storytelling, man. It's good storytelling. And I'm really, this setup I didn't mind. So other setup episodes, if you go back to in previous Mr. Know-It-Alls about this show, you end up with there's a setup episode, a bridge episode, and the climax episode. 3 parts. Now, this is clearly building to something, but it's so clear where we're all heading toward a collision. It reminds me of the episodes building up to the heist episode on Aldani, and that there's a lot of things happening right now. Anyway, very exciting. All right. So at the end of the day, you see Cassian breaks into the place the suite he was staying in. He left a box there. There's credits, a couple of guns, and then we get to Luthen. We shoot over to Luthen. Luthen's visiting Saw. Saw Gerrera is like, all right, we're gonna go. You tell Andor Krieger we're gonna do this thing. It's gonna be great. Blah blah blah. And Luthen's like, yeah, maybe not. And so Saw gets super paranoid. Saw realizes he tells him, he's like, yeah, Krieger's been made. And he's like, wait, you're not going to warn him, are you? So Saw's totally skeptical and totally suspicious mind sees everything. And for a minute, he's like, who else is that? Blah, blah. And Luthen's like, oh, well, your right-hand guy here, he's my inside man. He's like, what? And so Saw finally pulls a gun on him and he says, look, I'm pulling this gun on you to get you to listen to me. Calm down. And Saw's like, 30 men, huh? Plus Krieger. He's like, all right, plus Krieger. He's like, well, this is a war. It's the cost of doing business. It's the cost of the rebellion. This is a culture that has said the ends will justify the means. We've never been exposed to this side of the rebellion except for, maybe a little teeny bit in some of the animated stuff, and definitely we saw some in Rogue One. But to this depth, to understand that we all thought everyone in the rebellion was, you have A New Hope and early the Star Wars stuff, and it's like, oh, the rebellion's always wearing white hats and we're always the good guys, and they are. But the cost is something that they never quantify for us until now. This is really what's getting me about the show, is we're seeing this level of inside involvement, and it's staggering, and I'm really enjoying it. Because I feel like there is no such thing as black and white. There isn't. What there is right and wrong, and sometimes right has to get its feet dirty in order to fight wrong. And that's where we are. So, anyways, so Luthen finally... real quick, as the episode starts heading toward the end, Cyril steals from his mom in order to travel, because he's heading there. Luthen gets stopped by an Imperial patrol and manages to break away and manages to barely escape, but clearly they're hot on his heels. Cassian calls home. He contacts the place, the guy he stopped off and visited a couple times and whatnot, and only to find out his mom is dead. And then we get to see this amazing moment where Cassian and the guy he escaped with are sitting there. And the guy he escaped with is like, people have to know what's happening here. People have to understand what the Empire's doing. And he's right. You have to get the information out if you want this thing to grow and build. People have to know the atrocities the Empire is undertaking in order for them to hold their grip on them. And again,
The more you tighten your grip, Tarkin, the more star systems will slip through your fingers.
Right? So that's what this is all building toward. So, and then you get this really great moment where Cassian he looks out on the water, and I immediately was struck with echoes of Rogue One. Like, there's no explosion, the Death Star is not attacking and destroying anything, but yeah, man, when they're there on Scarif and it's just him and what's her name, and they're just watching anyways, it really it echoed that for me. So I like what they're doing. They're looking forward into the future. I'm still waiting for us to get K290 or K2SO. Yeah, I'm waiting for us to get that guy. So but there you go. Now you know. If knowing is half the battle, you're halfway to being a know-it-all yourself. So what is my know-it-all index for Andor Episode 11, The Daughters of Ferix? So funny enough, I usually give these setup episodes a low score. This wasn't a bad episode. It wasn't as good as last week's. Last week's was utter perfection. Okay, last week's was 10 out of 10. This week's episode, I'm bringing it back to an 8. I think it's an 8 out of 10. It's a good episode. It's a solid episode. Didn't knock my socks off, but it definitely set up some really nice things. I'm excited for where we're going, because we're definitely heading toward a collision. Ferix is going to blow. I believe you're going to get this massive explosion, and ultimately, an explosion in terms of effect. Like the things that are going to happen. It's going to boil over. And I think that as you're headed toward this climax, this culmination, this meeting of all these confluence of all these different plot lines, what we're going to end up with is the birth true birth of a version of the rebellion. And I don't know what's going to happen this season. I know they're talking about this. We are going to get a season 2. So the other thing I really think is something I want to make sure we understand is this episode or this show. This show is to Disney Plus what Game of Thrones is to HBO. What I mean by that is this is showing us deep looks at the machinations of the Empire and the rebellion and the chess and all these things. And so when Tony Gilroy says it's going to be 2 years before you get season 2, I don't doubt that, because they're taking the show very seriously. And I love that. I think the storytelling they're doing is of a caliber they have not done in Star Wars ever. In terms of depth, obviously there are great stories. I'm not trying to sit here and say like, Rebels or Rogue One or whatever else. But there's a depth of storytelling that's happening here that I'm finding amazing. It's refreshing. It's big. So, yeah, man. Comment below. Let me know what you thought. I'd love to know. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. Liking only helps us in the algorithm so people can find the show. Share the show with some folks, man. I'd love to hear your take on some stuff and talk about what you thought of the episode of Andor this week. But, yeah, man, never forget, everyone loves a know-it-all. See you next week.